the November 16th, 2020 Committee of Adjustment, and I call this meeting to order. Our second item on the agenda is the acknowledge of any pecuniary interest, and you can either raise it now or at any time it appears on the agenda. Moving on to item number 5 is public hearings. Public hearings 5.1, which is a minor variance A-2020-035 with Mr. Ryby and Mrs. Rice with the municipal address of 801 Stevens Street. Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll share my screen. I was out on a site inspection a few weeks ago and took some photographs of the site. This is the existing dwelling on the site. It's at the front of the property. The site is a thorough lot bounded on two opposite sides by Stevens Street and Lastic Lane. The property fronts onto Stevens Street.
Presentation's not showing, Barbara.
No. Okay, how about now?
No.
I can try mine.
Okay.
Where's the folder? There's the slides.
Okay.
Okay, is it on? Does it show?
No.
Share your screen until it's open, Jay.
I've got it here, so I'm not sure. I can see it on my desktop, but it says I'm screen sharing. Anyways.
It says
on your screen share, try just sharing just the application, just the PowerPoint, not your full screen.
Okay, I will get out of that. How do I get out of that?
Stop sharing and then find it. And then...
Okay, let me open it. Okay, one more attempt. I think so. Okay. Says now it's up again.
There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So this is the existing dwelling. It's at the front of the property. The property is bounded on two opposite sides by Stevens Street and Lastic Lane. The property fronts onto Stevens Street. The next slide, please. This is the rear of the dwelling. There's a shed situated in the rear yard. Surrounding land uses include residential uses, a park, and the lake. Servicing is by way of municipal water and sewers. Access is via Stevens Street, which is a year-round municipal road. Next. Purpose and site application and site plan. The application seeks to reduce the front yard setback from 6 meters to 4.77 meters and the rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 5.62 meters. Approval of the minor variance would facilitate house additions for living space in the front of the dwelling and for an attached garage and upper bedroom at the back of the house. The site is designated primary urban communities in the Bruce County official plan and residential in the Saugeen Shores official plan. The zoning is residential first density, R1-3. We have since received comments from the Conservation Authority. They find the application acceptable. There's no objection from the historic Saugeen Métis. Before you move on to this slide, the town commented that there's a discrepancy between the lot lines shown on the assessment map and the lot lines on the proposal. In this regard, a survey has now been submitted which confirms the lot lines. We did not receive, we have since received comments from a member of the public, Mr. Bill Inkster of 105 McVicker Street. He has commented that there are some ambiguities with respect to Lustig Lane road allowance at the intersection with McVicker Street, that there are two entries for the existing lot lines affecting 801 and 805 Stevens Street and 805 Lustig Lane, that this dates back to 1960 and the other one is from 1966. He became aware of this when he inquired about his property, which is 805 Lustig Lane. He's unaware of how the change was enacted between 1960 and 1966, but he seems to say that this is as good a time as any to address the uncertainty, as this may affect 801 Stevens Street's rear yard setback. He has no objections to the proposed development. To address the comment, we asked the applicant to submit a survey, which he has since done, and I understand from the applicant that the site plan was prepared based on a survey of the property prepared by a qualified surveyor in February 2019. Now on to the full text of a minor variance. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? A dwelling is a permitted use under official plan policy. The official plan does not address specific details about yard setbacks. The application maintains the intent and purpose of the official plans. Test number 2, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Granting the relief of front and rear yard setbacks will facilitate additions to the front and back of the dwelling. The purpose of the front yard setback is to ensure that development maintains a consistent orderly setback from the road allowance. The proposed 4.7 meter setback still maintains a reasonable and orderly setback from the road. The purpose of the rear yard setback is to provide amenity space to facilitate stormwater management and to alleviate potential conflicts with neighbors. There exists sufficient amenity space on the property and stormwater management is not an issue. The neighbors to the north and to the south will not be impacted by the front and rear yard setback reductions. To the west is Stevens Street and Lustig Lane is to the east. The variance maintains the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. The third test, is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings? I would say yes. Notwithstanding the configuration, the lot can reasonably accommodate the development. The variance represents an appropriate form of development for the use of the land. The last of the tests, is the variance minor in nature? The impact on surrounding property owners, on the environment and municipal functions? I would say the degree of potential impact from the reduced setbacks and location is negligible in relation to municipal functions and the environment. It is not expected that the proposed development will have a significant impact on the character of the area or impact the ability of adjacent property owners to use their property for permitted uses. The variance is minor in nature. A summary to recap. Minor variances are requested to reduce the front yard setback from 6 meters to 4.77 meters and the rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 5.62 meters. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It upholds the objectives of the Saugeen Shores official plan and represents good land use planning. The application satisfies the 4 tests of a minor variance. We are recommending approval subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Mugabe. Do the applicants wish to address the committee?
No, I don't believe we have any concerns as long as it's approved the way that the sketches are.
Okay, thank you, sir. Is there any members of the public that are on that wish to address the committee? Seeing none. Committee, questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is good use of the land. They're going to be adding on to it, and it'll be good use. But my question is, 805, Barbara, could you please confirm for me, has that property line been solidified? Do we know, is it on, off? Has that problem been taken care of?
That problem has been taken care of through you, Mr. Chair. We did receive a survey that was prepared just last year, so I believe the problem has been taken care of.
Okay, thank you. I'll be supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Grace.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question for the applicants, if I could.
Yes, please.
I noticed you have a lovely lot there, and I noticed when I was driving past on Stevens Street that there are a number of trees in your front yard. I expect that some of them will have to come down for your addition. I just wondered, do you have any sense of how many you'll have to remove in order to do that?
I don't believe we're going to take down any trees.
Oh,
They're coming
well,
up
that's
10
wonderful.
feet in the front.
Okay,
And these are all about 30 to 40 feet from the front of the cottage.
okay. Thank you. That's great.
Any other questions? Any comments? If not, may I have a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions listed on the decision sheet? Moved by Ms. Kunz, seconded by Councillor Rich. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Our next item is item 5.2, minor variance A-2020-052. This is 503-1910 Ontario Limited, care of Dane and Samantha Butner, with the municipal address of 625 Catherine Street in the former town of Port Elgin. Ms. Mugabe, please.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could have the slides up. The existing image, the next slide. Yes, so this is the existing image on the site. It's a 2-story, 6-unit apartment building, and this is the front view of the building. This slide shows the rear or the north side of the building. The adjacent property on the west side is 617 Catherine Street, which is also owned by the Butners and is occupied by a triplex dwelling. The two land parcels have shared parking spaces. Surrounding land uses include residential and commercial uses. There's a fire hall and Maple Square Mall and proximity to the subject land. The site is serviced by municipal water and sewers and is accessed through Catherine Street, which is a year-round municipal road. The application seeks to convert 2 storage spaces into 2 residential rental units. Relief is requested to reduce the number of parking spaces from 16 down to 15. Approval of the minor variance would increase from 6 to 8 the number of units within the existing apartment building. The subject land is designated primary urban communities in the Bruce County official plan and commercial core area in the Saugeen Shores official plan. The zoning is commercial core CC-7. The town of Saugeen Shores Development Services has commented that they are supportive of the creation of additional residential units in proximity to the commercial core lands. They have recommended that the developer provide cash in lieu of parking in accordance with the cash in lieu of parking bylaw. Therefore, staff recommend that relief not be granted to reduce the number of parking spaces. The town has explained that parking is required near the downtown as a result of the increase in housing, and that the developer should be required to contribute to the creation of additional parking spaces. There were no objections received from the Conservation Authority and from the historic Saugeen Métis. We did not receive any comments from members of the public. Now on to the full text of a minor variance. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plans? The full range of residential uses are permitted under official plan policy, including high-density development such as is being proposed. The 2 additional units increase the density from 65 units to 75 units per gross hectare, which is within the permitted range of maximum gross density of 90 units per hectare for high-density development. The commercial core area designation of the Saugeen Shores official plan permits high-density residential development subject to certain criteria, and this development meets the criteria. The application maintains the intent and purpose of the official plans. Test number 2. Does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The commercial core zone permits the establishment of an apartment building comprising a maximum of 6 dwelling units without any commercial units. As the permitted number of units is currently kept at 6, approval of the subject minor variance is required to permit 2 additional units. A residential use exists on the site, and the proposal involves internal renovations to establish 2 additional units. There will be no change to the exterior of the building or to the streetscape. Test number 3. Is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings? The application is desirable. The building can accommodate the additional units through the conversion of tenant storage space. The 2 proposed units contribute to the overall public interest by securing additional residential units in the municipality. The variance represents an appropriate form of development for the use of the land. Is the application minor in nature? I would say yes to the last test. The meaning of minor is not based on a specific number, where a difference of a number of units determines whether or not the development is acceptable. It is more appropriate to base this test on the degree of potential impact on surrounding property owners, the environment, and the municipal functions such as road maintenance, storm sewers, and water lines. Based on site inspections, I note that to the north is an alleyway and to the south is Catherine Street, so impact is minimal. As the renovations are only within the interior of the building, it is not expected that the adjoining neighbors to the east and west will be impacted. Further, there will be no impact to the environment. The variance is minor in nature. As a summary to recap, a minor variance is requested to increase from 6 to 8 the number of residential units within the existing apartment building. Relief is requested to permit 15 instead of 16 parking spaces. The application is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It upholds the objectives of the Saugeen Shores official plan and represents good land use planning. The application satisfies the 4 tests of a minor variance. We recommend approval subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Mugabe. Does the applicant wish to address the committee? You're muted, Dean.
Yeah, as long as everyone understands kind of where the units are going, I'm okay. I just did like a little drawing. I don't know if anyone could see it. So like basically you have the 2 units at the front of the building, and then there's 2 at the back in the basement are just used as storage. Those would be the 2 units that would be added, just for verification.
Thank you. Is there a member of the public that wishes to address the committee? If not, committee. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through, I have a question about the parking. Is when you have apartment units like that, is it standard to have 2 parking spots per unit?
When we went through the application, it was 1.2 spots per unit. So, yeah, which is kind of a weird number. So that was then factored in with the, because there's parking 100 meters from the site, which is the site that we own next to it, we have to also include the 3-plex and the 8-plex together. So that'd be 11 units we'd have to be servicing parking for, in which we came up with the number of 15 spaces. So the site currently has asphalt parking lots in the rear, and behind the property there is 11 of those spaces, and then the front of the property has the 4 others.
Okay, so you're between your there's 2 properties, Dane?
Yes, yeah, correct.
Between the 2 properties, you have enough parking to accommodate all the tenants.
Correct, yeah.
So they won't be using any public space to have to be parking.
Correct. Yeah, all the parking in the rear is actually for the apartment building, and then all the parking up front is on the front of the threeplex. So that's for all those tenants, and then the backyard is all for the new building.
Okay, thank you. So Jay, can you then just clarify for me the interdepartmental and agency consultation comment that says staff recommend the developer provide cash in lieu of parking in accordance with the cash in lieu of parking bylaw?
Yeah, so I mean, the parking provisions in the zoning bylaw require 1.25 spaces per unit in an apartment dwelling, one for each unit, and then the 0.25 is sort of like visitor parking. You need to accommodate some surplus land for parking, and then we do it in multiples of 4. And if you get sort of, if you have, forgotten the unit already, the unit count, 8 units, we needed one. There was one less space than what could be accommodated on the description. So we take cash per the bylaw, which is a tool we have that can say we would take the money and build parking to suit the demand. Sorry, I rambled on there.
But we don't need to build parking because they do have enough, but we're taking the money for the bylaw, but they have enough parking. Is that correct?
The way I counted the spaces is that they were deficient one space. So and I know Dane's just explained that it's not deficient, but I'm trying to read the parking right now.
My concern is I don't want to have to be using public parking. If the units are all full and they're using all the parking spaces, anybody that comes to visit then is using public parking. I just want to know what the situation is and what that bylaw states.
So the bylaw simply states then is that where parking can't be provided in the downtown, but from a residential use, the town is authorized to take cash in lieu of the deficient spaces. We may have to build some in the future. So the bylaw presumes we're going to collect it in a reserve, and over time we may build a new parking lot.
Okay, thank you for now.
Any other questions? Councillor Grace.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay, I have also a question about the parking. The description says that 4 are in the front on a gravel area. Is any of that along the road allowance? Would any of that space take up? Does it border the road allowance? Would it? We've had other situations where parking in front of something ends up being on the road allowance unintentionally, I guess.
Based on the dimensions, they meet the standard for the dimensions in our bylaw, but of course, it comes to action as well. When the people use the space, are they hanging over? There'll be a bit of a need to watch for that.
Well, just the dimensions are fine then. Okay.
The parking is actually interlocking driveways. They're on the property beside it. Those are the 4 spaces. So they're actually all on interlocking, and they're all on the actual property. So they don't go on the town property at all.
Yeah, and because it's interlocking, it would be easy to identify.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I do have a question, Dane, about I guess 2 questions about the renovations that you intend to make. Looking at the diagram that was attached to the application, it looks to me like part of what's labeled as a mechanical area beside the tenant storage area, that will be converted will that be converted as part of the new apartments?
So it's on the rear of I'm not too sure what drawing do you guys have?
I gotta get it up again.
If Jay, you could pull it up from the original presentation, because when we go to enlarge it, it's too blurry.
Yeah, from the report, maybe I'll grab. So
It's on page 68 of our agenda. It's entitled Tenant Storage Areas, Units B2 and B4. And it shows a diagram of the Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Yeah, so the way the building just kind of worked out structurally and for fire and sound separation, there was a concrete, you can kind of see there's a concrete wall down both centers. So that tenant storage, all the rough-ins were kind of completed. It's just internal stuff. So like some interior walls, and then the plumbing was roughed in. So we're just tapping into plumbing that's already there, because it had to be its own like fire and sound separated and rated so that that could be storage area. So that's why it was kind of planned for after.
Okay, in the mechanical area. Oh, shoot, sorry. The mechanical area is not, doesn't provide the mechanical structure for the entire building?
No, that'd be just, so each unit is separately metered and separately mechanic, like, so that mechanical room for that storage unit is currently like, has a boiler and provides heat for that storage area. So that would then be now used for the unit just itself.
Okay, and what will you be using for storage? For the, what options will you be providing for storage for the tenants now?
So they all have, each unit has quite a bit of storage as is. And then we also have a garage for storage on site for that we let the tenants use for any bikes or other stuff that they'd store. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? If not, may I have a motion to approve, subject to the conditions listed on the decision sheet? Moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Councillor Grace. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next meeting will be, subject to confirmation, will be Monday, December the 21st, 2020. May I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Just confirming that we're looking at the 15th, which is a Tuesday.
15th, okay, that's fine. 15th is Tuesday. Moved by Mr. Legault and seconded by Councillor Rich that we do now adjourn. All in favor? Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your participation.